Hello, everybody. You were muted technically for a second because I unmuted myself to start it out and was muting you at the same time. So your not yet was not yet.
Not yet.
Anyway, welcome to Discussing Tabletop for July 28th, 2018. This is episode 83. This is the tabletop discussion show where me and a couple of my kind of nerdy friends talk about all the various tabletop topics that have come out this week. Announcements.
Who are you calling a nerd?
New things like that. I'm calling you a nerd because we're very, very big nerds. Worm is
I'm
unable
a
to
geek.
Worm is unable to join us today. He's got behind. He's just things going on that he can't join us today. Unfortunately, you know, if you were on our Discord, or my Discord, you would have seen that there was the legend of the worm was discussed in the Discussing Tabletop Discord section of the Dracovin Empire Discord, and guess what? The legend continues. Anyway.
There once was a man named Worm.
He probably would be in the show, but not at least right now. Anyway, so let's talk about the topics we're going to talk about this week, because Joe and I have a bunch of interesting things that we want to talk about. Let's start with Magic Gathering Commander 2018, which is doing something interesting. It's bringing back past keywords that some of which I wouldn't have expected to return, like ninjas. You know, ninjas were weird, and we'll get into it, but they have a new commander ninja, so you could have a commander deck for ninjas. And so I liked ninjas. They were weird. They weren't bad.
I found them annoying.
I understand that. They do have like a very... It can be annoying in mechanic. Anyway, we're also going to talk about D&D because they came out with 2 campaign settings, one of which is out now in PDF form, and one which is going to be coming out soon. Ebberon and Ravnica, which, if you know about Magic, that's Ravnica. Also, the D&D unearthed arcana came out for... I don't know if it's the one that was already out this month or it's a bonus one. It's Races of Everon. They might have been waiting for the announcement to put it out, too. Gladius Hectius, a one-player RPG we're going to talk about. I do want to hint on Space 1889, the City of Lights adventure. It's basically set in Paris. And I've been enjoying how they've been showing us Earth and that. Conan the Pirate came out by Munchkin, because now you can be a pirate in the Conan RPG. And then we want to finish up by talking about Munchkin Dungeon by cmon Games, because Munchkin needs another format. This actually might be one that I kind of support, though, out of all the weird Munchkin spin-offs.
But it also...
Because it's a dungeon crawl board game with a Munchkin flair, which is one of
that's
those...
what I mean. It's not, you know, it's at least with cooperation of another gaming company joining it. So
well, they've done some stuff like that. I'm going to try to readjust this a little bit because I'm getting a...
Maybe it'll be an improvement is what I mean.
Well, it's like, in comparison to other Munchkin weird spin-offs, this is one that I actually think is not bad.
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe,
and,
you know, with how the things have been recently, maybe this will be better.
Yeah. And then we'll try to hit our normal segments, our Kickstarter Korners, our Week in Gaming, and Ask the Tabletop. But why don't we start by diving into, of course, Magic Gathering Commander? Because I think that's where I want to start with this. This is an interesting one, because I haven't been looking through the cards as much, the full card images, because I've been trying to be nice and avoiding them. You know, I don't want to do full... I haven't done full spoilers on the new stuff in it, because nice thing about the commanders, which I always find interesting, they do come out with new things. You know, new English cards.
Yes.
Wow. I lost that for a second. That was great. But the other thing that I kind of want to hint about this is that they're... Okay. And they're doing some interesting things with those commander cards, because we are seeing there's, like, a combination of very interesting new and old planeswalkers, too. Because they're being centered around... It looks like they're all being centered around planeswalkers. There we go. Like Lord Windgrace, that's a cool one to do because that's a past character. They have a return of the one from Kaladesh, which people liked, even though Kaladesh was weird, and people were mixed bag about that. And then, of course, they've got the Creepy Child.
Creepy child.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they're like, 6-year-old, or I'm sorry, let's like 8-year-old planeswalker. There you go. But, yeah, they've showed off the full deck list, it looks like, and all the cards from it. And the things that I've seen a return of are, of course, as I mentioned, ninjas are something. They have things to do with bestow, which was an interesting concept that you could, as a higher price, play an enchantment or play a creature as an enchantment first, and then when the enchantment would go to the graveyard, it comes back as its creature version of it. Basically, for a higher cost, you get something twice. Which was not it was an interesting thing, but it wasn't like super, oh hey, let's have this. And, the interesting themes that they seem to be going into with these have...
Okay.
What?
I'm looking at the child one.
She's a creepy child.
One super creepy, but her ability, her -6 ability.
Mm-hmm.
Choose left or right. Each player gains control of all non-land permanents however you say her name, controlled by the next player in the chosen direction.
Yeah. So...
Why?
You cycle non-land permanents.
No, the person next to them gets control of their permanents.
Yeah. Choose left or right. Each player gains control of all non-land permanents other than her, controlled by the next player in that direction. The thing about this commander set, which I have noticed, is it's more multiplayer focused, for one thing.
Yeah. But it's just like, everyone pass your non-land permanents to the right or left.
But she stays with whoever controlled her. Yeah, she dicks with things in a weird way.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like, that's just strange. I mean, that works out perfect, especially if that's the only card you have left on the board. Other than land.
That could be a setup you have. Because she's black, white, blue, you could easily combo her with some kind of big
bounce stuff to your hand.
Or big sacrifice. And set yourself up that you have very little, and you're going to steal a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I get that.
No,
but it's just...
Another really weird card I wanted to bring up was Arthemix the Slumbering Isle, because you cast it, but it's a land. It comes in the battlefield with 5 slumber counters on it, and it counts as a land. You can tap it for mana, and when you cast a spell, use remove the slumber counter from it. And it's a land, not a creature, as long as it has slumber counters on it. It can still tap for mana once you make it into a creature. So it's very weird. Because you're casting a land. So does that mean you can give it as an extra? Because that's the thing I think about it, is like, is it coming into the battlefield as a creature, getting the counters on it when it enters the battlefield, and becoming a land? Woo!
Yeah, because I would assume if you're casting it, it wouldn't go against playing a land.
Yeah, but it's still very weird. I mean, yeah. They have some other very interesting, like, legends and planeswalkers. No, that one is very much a brain herder. No, I agree, too. It's cool that it's a big legendary Kraken, you know... they have a legendary Hydra, which is kind of cool. There's a bunch of other ones that are in here that are very interesting. Oh, Yevnet. If you want to... That one is... when it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If its converted mana cost is odd, you may cast it without paying its casting cost. Otherwise, draw a card.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a weird one. You have the ninja commander, which has commander ninjutsu, because you can put it from the command zone, tapped attacking. That's an interesting one there, that you can put this like commander out.
Which one is that?
Yuriko, Tiger's Shadow.
What color is that?
Blue black. The ninja colors. Because I remember that, because I do have that ninja deck, which I never use. It's on my list of decks which I know are kind of annoying, and I rarely, if ever, use them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really weird mechanics they're testing out here, though. They've Zatsha, Sleeper's Agent, who enters the battlefield under an opponent's control of your choice. It attacks each turn of Able, but can't attack its owner or planeswalkers the owner's control. So basically, it's big multiplayer. I give Zansha to, like, you, Joe, and you would have to attack our third player, but couldn't attack me. And then I could also spend mana, and the controller loses 2 life, and you draw a card, and any player could use that ability. So it's a very interesting one that you're basically donating a creature to screw them over.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's just such... I feel like this is the experimental mechanics set that we haven't seen for a while. But it's not a full set, you know?
Yeah.
'Cause,
it's interesting.
Yeah. Like another one that I saw, which is probably one of the more powerful one, is Myth Unbound, which is an enchantment in green, which is a commander cost 1 less for each time it's been cast from the command zone this game. Think about what that means. 1 less for each time. It normally costs 1 more for each time. Effectively, your commander never gets more expensive.
Right.
And your commander's put in the command zone from anywhere, draw a card. So it becomes the, I want my commander to die a lot of times. I do feel like, I don't know. Again, it's they've got some interesting stuff here, but they've also, like, seemingly done some very weird experiments too. And
yeah.
I'm going to be interested to see how these play out in a longer term also. I guess is what I'm thinking about. Is what this will kind of mean as we kind of push forward. And again, like, seeing, like, I think we got some Miracle coming back, the Ninjas, Metalcraft. A lot of these abilities that are interesting, but I feel like maybe they weren't the most... Were they most popular? I don't know. Or were they popular? I guess Ninjas have had always this, like, weird question mark popularity somewhere on the side.
Right.
But it's interesting to see a little bit more, like, return of, like... I would say we're feeling, like, the effects of Kaladesh sets, the Ninjas, and Theros heavily in these commander sets. So, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it. Interesting. And I guess because these aren't standard, but these would be, I think they're considered modern, I'm interested to see the effects they have longer term. So, I don't know. It's definitely a lot of interesting stuff that they've thrown out with this set. So
yes.
Anyway, Commander 2018 is... Is it released now? I think it was like right at its release if it's not out.
Yeah, it was. I think it was technically yesterday.
No, it's on August 10th. August 10th.
I
they might be. Well, they might be doing some
pre-release
stuff or like special event stuff. Because I think with how Commander has been evolving, as it's become one of the more popular deck types, you know, as an interesting way of doing it. Definitely, I could see them doing more events with that, but you don't hear it as much. Anyway, So that's Commander 2018, which is well, it's coming out soon. Up to you if you want to check it out and get it. You know, if you're a friend of Commander, this might be some cool stuff to get for your Commander decks and stuff. Get him or something. All right, though. I do want to move on though, and I want to talk about the two big announcements from Wizards, Ebberon and Ravnica. Joe, you were looking up at Everon. Why don't you? Well, I'll introduce it once you go over what you've been like kind of looking into it for a little bit.
Yeah, I haven't looked over it a lot, but I have it up.
Probably about as much as me. So Everon campaign setting introduced in 3rd edition. It was mixed bag of how people received it. There's some people that loved Everon, other people's that didn't like it, and other people's like me that were like, meh, I'm fine with Fallen Empires. If people want to do a different campaign setting, fine by them. I didn't care much. There are some people that I know I've talked to that love Everon. And so, yeah. So, this book is the Wayfarer's Guide to Everon. That's the first one that we're kind of talking about with this.
It's PDF only, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And they didn't skimp on the artwork or anything, or, you know, even the page detail in the background or anything. It's like a regular D&D book.
Yeah, this definitely makes it a very interesting thing that it's like... It's... a partial release without being a partial release. And the thing about this entire announcement is, you can get the Wayfarer Guide now. You know, they announced these...
Yeah, 1999.
Yeah, they announced these two and put this out with the announcement. So, there was, like, no hype for Everon. It just came out. And... I find that kind of weird a little bit.
Yeah, normally there's, you know, some, hey, we're doing this, and nope, here it is.
Yeah, but
we're holding back on the other one.
I mean, the other one they at least are like putting out a little bit more, I guess in quotations, fanfare for.
Yeah.
But this is still a 175 page book for story and characters set in Everon, which is now I have seen that some people were complaining a little bit, jokingly, like someone mentioned the fact that they don't focus as much, that there is like a big hobgoblin culture, and because of, I don't remember if it's which of the books introduced that you could play a hobgoblin character in 5th edition. You can play them. They were expecting that a little bit more focus on that for Ebberon culture, and that's like, okay, maybe they don't have everything in a 175 page book. Maybe because 3rd edition introduced so much crap for Everon back in the day, because it did do a lot of books, there's more stuff to introduce, and they can't do it all in one. Maybe. I don't know. That's, you know. Everon's neat. I mean, it's not something I ever hated.
And they have a full list of the planes of Everon.
Yeah. So.
And they have some unique races for it. They have changelings,
shifters, and Warforged, and I think one more.
Callus Star.
Because a topic we're going to be talking about in a little bit, the races of Everon, introduce all of those.
Yeah.
Well, we will talk about when we're done talking about these. Though it does connect together, which is kind of neat. I'm kind of glad that they did do another sort of setting, because I think that's one of the things that we mostly were missing from 5th edition D&D. That is one of those aspects of it that even if you look at all the editions, they've done it. I think 1st edition didn't do it because it was so early, but 2nd edition introduced all of these campaign settings. So it's sort of like, I can do D&D. Here's a unique and interesting world that has that same flavor, but is its own thing. You had your horror elements in Ravenloft, your sort of sci-fi elements in Spelljammer. You had Dragonlance, which I think was, I can't remember what all the I know there's differences. I think Greyhawk, if you're doing pure Greyhawk, had more political intrigue. Well, that was Dragonlance. I might be switching them around. And Plain, I think it was Plain Chase, which was the planes hopping one, or Plane Shift or something. I can't remember the exact one for what that was called. See, I'm bad too. And 3rd edition brought a bunch of them back. Not all of them. 4th edition brought a couple of them back. And we really only have Forgotten Realms in 5th edition. I think they've hinted at Greyhawk because that's the old core, but they really haven't dived into it. And we got some of Ravenloft, and now we're getting some of Ebberon. So it's cool. I like to see them come back. What are your thoughts about this, Joe? Or what, from what you're looking at yourself, where are you coming on with this entire thing?
I think this is pretty cool. I think it's about time they kind of combined the worlds of Magic and D&D.
Oh, well, we're talking when we're getting to ravnica too.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was switching up with Everon. Yeah.
I'm sorry. My brain's a little off today. I'm going through some personal stuff, which you know.
Oh, got it. Yeah. I think we're going to both be a little off today. Things got late, and I was not feeling great, and I just did not stream this morning then. So,
Yeah. But everything. No, I mean, this book looks great. I love even the twists on the basic classes. I know we'll get our races. We'll get more into that in the other book, but I find it interesting though that they're just doing it as a PDF.
Yeah,
I find that a little puzzling because normally like this, they'll do supplements as PDFs here and there, or as a paperback or something like that. But for such a large book, to be PDF only,
and it is something by Wizards, which is one of those things that we can't like get rid of this entire thing.
Now, for the cover page of the PDF, it does say explore the world of Everon in this campaign prototype of the world's greatest role-playing game. So I'm wondering, maybe it's just still a work in progress, kind of like what they do with...
it's like Ultra Unearthed Arcana in a way.
Yeah.
That they're trying to evolving it, and they have a book advent. They have like most of what they want, and maybe this is the first stepping stone.
Maybe they're trying to flesh it out more still, but they want it to release something for it.
I don't know, because again, it's like if you look at it, it's from Wizards of the Coast. It's just a PDF, and I don't know. It's hitting this weird oddity that I'm unsure about. I'm just definitely confused a little bit about the entire thing. That this is their direction for Ebberon, but what does it mean for Ebberon in the future for them too?
Right.
I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to see if they actually do come out with a printed version of it, or if they're going to do something different for printed Ebberon. Maybe this means they want to do, because they've been doing a certain number of big adventures throughout their thing. Yeah. So maybe this is an excuse of, maybe now we can come out with more adventures a year, and we can do, this one's set in Everon, because we've got a new focus for it with this.
Right.
And it's an excuse for them to do more than, 1 or 2 big adventures a year. So that they can give us more product, and people will eat it up and will love it and will play it. So, I don't know.
And, maybe I'm also wondering, which idea came first, the Unearthed Arcana for the races of Everon, or the PDF? Because they came out at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I also think is interesting because it has the same races that are offered in the PDF.
Yeah. It's kind of strange.
That's what I'm wondering. Could it be like you said, like maybe unearthed arcana, 2.0
Yeah.
of, okay, so we think we have enough of it fleshed out, but we're going to release it as a PDF instead of a full book for now.
Because maybe they won't like put out, because this probably has a lot of world setting. Maybe that's why this is what it's going to be. But
right.
They're going to use some of this basic information from here and maybe refine it in something Everon related in the future. So, like, I'm putting out this adventure, and with this adventure, we're introducing, we're talking more about these races. So they're a big thing. Here's the finalized version of it, which might be an update from the Wayfire's Guide or from the, Unearthed Arcana. So the mechanics part of it can be accompanying something else.
Right.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, it's just it's definitely an oddity, but we'll see what happens.
All right. So the other thing that we kind of want to talk about here is they announced a very interesting book, I have to say, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. So, again, like I was talking about, what we were trying to talk about, this is an interesting one. No, okay. So, I follow some of the people that work on this on Twitter, and I've been actually half decent at keeping up with some stuff at Twitter, at least for like a week or two now. We'll see if that holds up. But apparently, people were expecting Plane Shift or, Dominaria to come out. Because, they've been doing it for all the sets and all the planes they've been introducing. Okay, great. We haven't heard anything about it. And Dominaria set's been out for a while. They announced this. Now, I did see that the Dominaria Plane Shift should be coming out soon, so we'll probably be talking about that in a couple weeks from now when that comes out, which will be awesome because these plane shifts, which are like Magic meets D&D, which are these small books that are like, oh, here's how you include, this plane of magic to a degree in your D&D games. Here's how you can combine them and play in them. Here's some like versions of races. Here's some special things, and they're actually pretty decently sized normally, like 30 pages for some of them. This is a huge book, all about, Ravnica, which, I mean, I guess Ravnica, I understand why it's the plane of choice, because it is one of the more popular ones. There's always been something about it, and it's like Sigil in a way, without being multiplanar, because it's the city is the land, and I'm interested to see how they go about with this, what we're going to see. Because it's a 50-page hardcover book, which means it's got to be big. At least decent sized. At least Player's Handbook sized, which is like, I was going to check out, it's like 300 pages. Yeah. And so, now we're not going to be able to see it until November, which is, okay, yeah. Oh, but, man, they jumped wholeheartedly in with this to Magic D&D crossover. And what does this mean for maybe the reverse? Because I guess that's one of those weird things, is if, like, we're basically saying this is another, like, how are we connecting this together, too? Because that's the thing about, like, D&D and all its campaign settings. They're technically alternate planes of, like, central planes of existence normally, if you're talking about the D&D cosmology. They can be all connected in a way. You can ignore that connection, but it has existed in a lot of the information that's been provided out there. So are we adding in, like, the Magic multiverse to D&D now, or are they, like, really treating that more as a separate thing that they're going to evolve in the future with more books like this. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's about time, because this is something that kind of obvious of being able to cross things, but then I'm also wondering if there's going to be anything in the reverse.
Yeah, that's got it on my mind. I would think there are ways to do it without going a full core set. You know, maybe like special things that would be crossover things. You could do like a special, like certain game modes, like commander sets or something. You know, that would include them, because then they're not the same kind of standardized. You know, the cards can be used in certain places, but not everywhere. Then,
right?
You know, and that might be a way to do it. Like, I think with things like they did the two-headed giant, or aka Battlebound, which they just came out with, they introduced like a weird plane that they didn't have before with entirely different rule sets of things, which is kind of interesting, but that's the way that they can kind of backdoor in some things. The other game modes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do feel like Ravnica is still probably one of the better choices they could have made for D&D 1 anyway, because it is very unique and filled with a lot of color. And color helps a lot for these things. Like, that's why I think Forgotten Realms is so popular. It has a lot of color that's been developed over time. This is a plane that, like, just from the cards, you could see there's a lot of color without having to have a lot of that establishment. Granted, it's got 2 sets and 1 upcoming, and that's another thing. They're putting it out around the time we're going to get the new Ravnica set. Think about that. It's going to be great marketing for the 2 of them.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think they want their Magic players playing D&D and their D&D players playing Magic.
Yeah, and I think this... I'm surprised they haven't done this sooner.
Again, they've done little things with the Plane Shift series.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting the right name for it, but I'm so forgetful right now. Where, you know, they've introduced, like, hey, here, you can go to Zendikar, or, you know, here's visiting Kaladesh, or Monket, and here's some rules for it. Neat. You know, so that you... But then, again, it's like, that's a 30-page book, a 30-page PDF that they offered for free for each of these. What the heck kind of, like, depth can you dive into with 30 pages? A little bit. But
they're finally going all in now.
Yeah, this is all in. Which I'm also going to have to be interested to see, where the hell are they going to go with the lore? Because that's something that's like, if we're talking about this from a Dungeons & Dragons term, there is so much more information that's required that they don't have for Magic. So that's something that they're going to have to be doing, is deep diving into Magic lore to a degree, which I think is going to be very interesting, because this is also an aspect of lore that we don't touch at.
They can pull from the novels, too.
Yeah, they can pull from the novels.
Because, you know, Magic used to do a lot of novelizations of the stories, so...
And I think Ravnica had its novelizations, too.
That's what I'm saying. There's a place where they can go to for the lore and everything for these places.
I'm more like they're probably going to have to evolve it, too, because...
Oh, yeah.
Like, a lot of the lore you normally get are centered around characters more than anything, or locations. This is going to have to, like, be actual infrastructure lore. Like when we, like, if you go visit the city of Waterdeep has a lot of information about, like, who's there, what they do, what kind of groups are there, how are the groups organized, you know, it's got infrastructure, which is not really something you really have to hint on in Magic as much. You can pretend about it. We can say, like, oh, you know, from my past knowledge, Golgari are kind of like I would call them janitors to a degree. You know, they're the people that are down in the sewers and, like, you know, also provide some of that, you know, like, cleanup job. We're deep diving into how they're, you know, working out with that entire thing. because it is a plane that's an entire city. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
I guess that's a way that makes it a little easier, too, to do. Because it's a gigantic city, and that's all it is. So...
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where they go from here and what other kind of crossovers they end up doing.
Yeah, I think this is like, I don't get a lot of D&D books at this point in time. This is one of those ones that kind of is like, I think I should get it. This is one of those ones that kind of draws me out. Like I got Curse of Strahd to run Curse of Strahd. If I was going to run one of the other adventures, actually, at some point in time, I'll probably get the book for it. I haven't ran one of those, so it's just been meh at this point in time. This is one that I just feel like, yeah, I gotta pick this one up just because of the position I'm in and the nature of things. It's interesting. It definitely is. I'm curious to see what they do and how big the book ends up being. So,
yeah,
I guess we might see more as we approach November. It's 4 months away that we're going to see it. A little less than 4 months. So we'll just have to see how things evolve and if they give us some previews of it or let us know more information. Sometimes they do for these books. Sometimes they don't. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, well, play it by ear.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Races of Everon then. So New Unearthed Arcana came out with the entire thing here of the Races of Everon, introducing Changelings, Kalishtar, Shifters, and Warforged. And they literally do say, under the Unearthed Arcana, for more information, see the Wayfarer's Guide to Everon. Yeah. This is like a weird thing, because... it's playtest. It's not permitted in D&D Adventure League. So does that mean the Wayfarer's Guide to Everon's not permissible in Adventure League too? Because they say that first, and then they follow up with this is playtest content right away. I'm curious as to what that kind of means.
Yeah, that is weird because it's the same stuff in the book. So, huh?
Yeah. I don't know. So, and these are interesting races. They're classic races. I've seen them before. They were introduced in more core D&D, and I think some of the bestiary or the monster manuals. I'm sorry, monster manuals for D&D, bestiary for Pathfinder. Like Changeling, I remember seeing it in like Monster Manual 3 or 2 or something. Yeah. After they had introduced in Ebberon.
I don't remember the Kalishtar.
Kalishtar are another... I'm not sure about that one. That one, my memory doesn't serve me. The name sounds familiar. Like, Shifters didn't we see them more in... I remember seeing them in 3rd edition, and I think they were more of a core thing in 4th edition. Weren't they? I thought they were because... I
blocked out a lot of 4th edition.
I know, but I was pretty sure Blaze had his character, Summer or something.
Yeah, I think you might be right there.
Yeah. Or it was something similar to a Shifter that was in 4th edition.
Yeah, but I mean... It's kind of like a wear something.
Yeah, it's like a mild wear something. And Warforged were definitely in 4th edition and 3rd edition, and they've evolved them very interesting because I think those are I like them the most out of any of these just because of the fact that it is a mechanical life form, you know?
Yeah, Warforged are always interesting, but I have to say the Kalishtar are looking over them as also a really interesting thing because you're almost like you're a human but also linked to another spirit, so you are kind of 2 in 1.
Yeah, they have like weird mind link psychic abilities, a dual mind.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, you can use your as a reaction you can have advantage on a will saving roll.
Wisdom, yes.
Or wisdom saving roll.
They have a Kalishtar barbarian would be ridiculous because if you went the one path that gives you resistance to everything but psychic damage, they have resistance to psychic damage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I resist all damage. Granted, I don't think it's the best combination, but that's like one of those little ones because they're getting wisdom and charisma and 1 to ability score of their choice. I feel like it would be very interesting character too, because it's not the perfect build for it, but it gives you something that's very powerful for that build.
But and you could also kind of, excuse it, like maybe the spirit that's attached to that person is what causes the rage.
Yeah, see, that's interesting little storylines you can add in with it. I think they're all very interesting races, like the Changeling and their ability to transform. And the fact that, like, I remember the Changelings, they look pretty, you know, like, colorless eyes, silver white hair, you know, like very little physical form in their natural form. So, and I mean, like, the Shifters are kind of cool because they're just, like, we're partial were creatures without being full were creatures.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yo, good old Warforged. I'm kind of interesting. They don't need to eat, breathe, or drink. Of course they don't. They're robots. They're robots.
Hey, you can have an integrated tool.
Yes, and they have built-in protective layers of it. They can alter their bodies with different defensive modes. Each time you finish a long rest, you can adopt one of the integrated protections table, providing the prerequisites. That's interesting.
Ooh, they would also be really good as a monk.
Yeah, I could see Warforged.
Well, with the Juggernaut part of it, you get Iron Fists.
Yeah.
Which you can deal with 1d4 plus strength modifier bludgeoning damage instead of the normal unarmed strike.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And you have powerful build.
Yeah. One size category for carry casting, and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. Yep. No, then they're cool. And, like, the integrated protection is kind of neat because it's like, you have to think about it, is they can change the way that their armor is.
Ooh.
You can choose to have light armor, or medium armor, or heavy armor, depending on your proficiencies. If you're proficient with medium or heavy, you can choose to take those forms. You know, it's like... And the thing is, the heavy armor, which is something that is really powerful, 16 plus your proficiency bonus.
Yeah.
They replace stealth for that. That would be an 18 AC if you're playing a, like, fighter or something, Warforged.
Yeah.
At first level. And then 20 with a shield for first level?
That's insane.
Yeah. They are tanks. Tanks. Even the composite one. Oh my god. They add their proficiency bonus to all of them if you're proficient with all the armors. If you're proficient with light armor, you add your proficiency to it. If you're proficient with medium armor, what you need for the composite, you add your proficiency bonus to it. They get only +1 to con, but instead, because they don't get those ability scores, but they just have I am tank.
Yeah, even unarmored, you're getting 11 good dex and proficiency bonus.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, again, they don't have the ability score bonuses like of a lot of other races, which can make a difference because of the proficiency system, but sort of like what they lack for maybe in attacks, they make up for in defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
they're a bodyguard.
Yeah, they're a bodyguard. That's a great way of saying it.
Now, the only thing I would say, the lamest thing they give them, I think, is under the skirmisher build, the light step. It's cool, but you have to be by yourself. When you're traveling alone for an extended period of time, 1 hour or more, you can move stealthy at a normal pace.
Oh, and that's where their ability score bonuses come in too. So I see, they do get the ability score bonuses with everything else too. I don't know. Warforged, I'm not sure about.
Give me 1 second. I have to take this real quick. Sorry.
Okay, sure, it's okay. Make sure to mute yourself. Okay.
Hello?
You're not muted, Joe.
Hey, sweetie, what's up? I'm doing okay.
Let me just,
I'm worried about you.
I'll just do that. Okay. Okay. So, Warforged, I don't know. I feel like this is the one that might get edited a little bit, just because of the nature of some of the things in it. The integrated protection definitely can be very powerful. Like they can't wear armor. They get their shield as normal. They get the armor. And they can change the defensive mode too, which is very interesting too, depending on their situation. I guess because the specializations are interesting but not super great. They don't have like really powerful abilities, I could say. I don't know. Proficiency one tool of your choice. It's like one language. The envoy is kind of cool. Integrated tool. Like I guess I give like an example. Like you could have an integrated loot, or you know, if you're a bard, compass. You know, they give good examples of what you can integrate. So I do like the Warforged. I think those are the kind of, out of the list of these, I think that's kind of the top one. Oh my god. I'm trying to break stuff. Don't mind me. I'm losing my mind. I'm trying to break things. Just because apparently I am a klutz today. I'm interested to see more of it. Alright, I do want to dive in more to some other stuff because we deep dived into these. I think we will move on to... we really deep dived into these topics here. I don't want to take forever today. I'm gonna introduce Gladius Hereticus. Let's talk about that one. I want to talk about that one. It's a single player RPG, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. So that's exactly what it is. It's meant to be roguelike, and it's meant to be a single player dungeon crawling RPG. So that's kind of interesting take about this, that you're meant to play it a couple of times with an evolving situation. It's meant to be like, well, you know, if you're familiar with them, most roguelike video games. It's certainly a city crawler, they call it. Dungeon crawler / city crawler. We're using a pack of regular playing cards to generate areas, encounters, loots, resolve attacks, and checks. You're using playing cards to do that, and that gives you a randomization because you're using a deck of cards that's going to be telling you, like, oh, okay, I'm entering an area. I draw a card. That's the area I'm entering into. You work your way through a destroyed city. You try to survive long enough to assemble a device that will convert the fate of this place. You're basically, I guess, undoing the destruction of the city. You gain levels, equipment, fight the inhabitants of the place, you know. And if you feel strong enough, there's an acropolis beneath the city with foul, terrifying creatures. It's meant to be lethal, randomized, and it's not really role-playing. You're not interacting because it is a single-player thing, but a lot of combat and a lot of role-playing based decisions. Now, they have a PDF out, $3.50. I think this is a very interesting game because it's making like a roguelike game, something similar to like Rogue Legacy, Binding of Isaac, you know, one of those, and in a way making it into a tabletop game, you know, and I feel like that's an interesting take on things, and I'm interested to see the roguelike situation that's connected to it, how after you fail, what the result would be going down the line, how I keep playing it over and over again until I get to the victory, and even if I get to the victory, could I play through it again? This is definitely a interesting take on a single player RPG, and you know, it's one of those things that, yes, you don't role play a lot in a single player because role playing is normally about the interaction, and because it's single player, you don't get the interaction, so it's going to be more the combat focused anyway. definitely... Oh. I got Joe frozen there for a second. Sorry, Joe. Welcome back. He muted himself from me, I think. Welcome back. Okay. Anyway, so this is definitely one that I think even if itself is not like pretty much for any of us in particular, I think this is a good game to have because this gives us opportunities to see different types of games. The roguelike or the repeated play single player adventure that this is building to be is definitely something that was very interesting and I feel needed for the evolution of this entire thing. I'm kind of glad to see it in a way. So, I do want to move on though quickly because we do have a couple. I do have a couple other topics I want to hit into. Joe,
sorry about the disruption there.
No, it's fine. I just quickly went over Gladus hectius.
Okay.
I kind of went over it. And if you hadn't had a chance to look at it, it's a solo dungeon crawl roguelike, which I found was very interesting because
it's cool.
You're meant to replay it over and over again, and each time you play it has a different. It has compounding results of effect. So that's kind of an interesting take on it. And I was saying how that might evolve some. That might be a hint for more single-player RPGs because when you think RPG, actual role-playing, you don't really have that here. But
I've done some interesting ones like that with on phone apps.
I can see that. So definitely, I'm interested to see what kind of direction that might take in the future. But right though, I do want to hit at the two releases by Modifius that we kind of had. Nocturne in the City of Lights for Space 1889 and Conan the Pirate. Why don't we kind of quickly go over those two in a little bit? Space 1889, Nocturne in the City of Lights, I think is an interesting one because it's continuing at least the last adventure that we saw from Space 1889 that centers a little bit more on, well, Earth. Because we've had a lot of... Because, like, at first, they had it centered on, well, of course, the galaxy, because it's, Victorian age space travel.
Right.
So, of course, you want to see a lot of that. But with this one, we see Paris. We're going to Paris Opera House, and the first Martian opera singer on Earth! And
Ooh la la!
The songbird vanishes, and you have to... The adventure is to find the diva and rescue her. I mean, that's actually a really interesting adventure. Because it's sort of like Phantom of the Opera-y.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Does she look like the blue space chick from Fifth Element?
She does now.
Because she was she was an alien opera singer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's very interesting because, like, I think it's going space with an adventure that's not very space. And I think that's why, this is definitely a more unique one. Like, the last one, it was all about, oh, maybe some of these other planets that we're now visiting had some, like, we had some influence already on Earth, in the last one on Earth. Because it was about, like, ancient artifacts and hidden history. This is all about,
right.
Like, Martian opera singer, maybe Phantom of the Opera kind of kidnapping, something that's going on more than this. You're trying to rescue her. Relatively simple. But probably has some complex depths to it. And I think that's kind of interesting. And it's also showing us off Victorian age Paris. Like, the picture's kind of cool with the airships around, the Eiffel Tower. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for that they're focusing, like, what has, this technology and also, experience with these alien cultures done to the Victorian age.
Yeah, and I think, this is the kind of adventure that you almost need because this does not feel ridiculously grandiose, but it feels like a very interesting adventure to play out,
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see this one. This one is is definitely cool looking, and I wouldn't mind if we do see some more like actual adventures on the other planets and stuff. But those always feel like they have more stakes to them because they're like the frontier, and we're back home in France.
Yeah.
Which I guess you don't necessarily need to be French if you're like a Space 1889 adventurer, but you could have a terrible French accent. Oui, oui. I have very terrible French accent.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oui, oui.
Uh-huh.
I have to go to the toilet.
I'm gonna stop now because it sounds horrible already.
Yes. And of course I beat it to death more.
Yeah, you did. So, yeah.
You're welcome.
Uh-huh. I mean, I guess it's like, it claims that you've made acquaintance with the exotic and captivating Alalia, the Martian opera singer. Aha! Indeed!
Aha.
What ho, Phineas? We must go investigate this kidnapping.
Don't call her a hoe.
What? What is You're confusing me, Phineas. Let us go and lift our large triangular weights as we go adventuring.
But they'll weigh us down, sir.
It's fine. Our superior Victorian muscles will allow us to carry it. Meh! Meh!
Here, catch this medicine ball.
Indeed!
I constructed it out of a cannonball.
Oh, Phineas, you're so funny. Anyway, so, yeah, that's one of the two books that's come out from Modiphius. The other is, of course, Conan the Pirate. Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember Conan being a pirate. Do you? Maybe he was?
Also, they should have released it in September, close to Talk Like a Pirate Day.
This is very acceptable. Does that show up then? No. Damn it. Okay. I hope to cheat things a little for a second there. Just like hope because it's the exact same region that it would like remember it for OBS here. But no, OBS is cruel to me. Conan the Pirate! There we go. So, Conan the Pirate, I guess, it's all about Conan being a pirate. I mean,
does
really.
he get a jaunty eye patch?
I would hope. Okay, so pirates are a thing in Conan, and I definitely have seen stuff that involves pirates. But I never really felt like Conan himself was a pirate. Like all the other books, you excuse those, and you're like, okay, I can see that, there was an adventure that Conan did this that seemed very piratey. But not piratey, but
barbarian.
Yeah, well, all the other books, him acting as a rogue. I've seen stuff where he's, breaking into things, because, and doing stuff like that. Or some of the other, books that's, mentioning, him doing this kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. And I'm like, pirate, okay? Him actually being a pirate? Yeah.
Maybe he's just fighting pirates, and they named it Conan the Pirate because it's pirate themed.
Yeah, I guess so. Because it is pirate themed. It's all about being pirates, being on the coastal waters, running pirate campaigns, ship statistics.
I want to be the galley slave.
Okay, so apparently Conan describes the height of his pirate career along with the crew of the Tigress. So I guess he was a pirate for a period of time, because Conan does everything.
Next, Conan the Prostitute.
I'm pretty sure that would be a book they would not put out, but they might describe his time as, I don't know what. I don't know. Probably something else stupid.
I think I broke you.
Wait. Conan the Diplomat. I'm gonna negotiate! Poof!
Conan the Dairy Farmer.
So it does have a bunch of new archetypes: Marine, Galley Slave, Merchant Captain, and Smuggler.
I want to be the galley slave.
I mean, I guess that's what you were at a point
No,
in time.
I still am.
You could be. Was once a galley slave and still is.
I'm mopping the poop deck.
I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's. I feel like I guess there is source material for it, but I feel like at this point in time the source material is getting a lot thinner. So what direction can you really take? How many more of these can we do? And I guess they do try to describe different kingdoms each time they do one of these, which is good, but still. Anyway, yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on Conan the Pirate. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Is a great way of describing it.
I've never been a big Conan fan, so
There are certain Conan things I have enjoyed, and others that I've been like, yeah, I don't need that. So, like, I feel like the what's to say? The Conan the animated series and the movies weren't bad, but like I never got into the comics, never got into the books. That's what I can say about those. So, you know, Conan the Adventurer, that was a great one. And Schwarzenegger as Conan. Not bad movies. Pretty good movies. The first one much better. The second one not bad. So, you know, I kind of like push those a little bit. Anyway, let's move on to our final topic so we don't go too late. We did start a little late, but I guess I just want to get us through it. Munchkin
Dungeon, yeah.
So this has been announced. So this isn't coming out yet. This is something that's CMon Games is developing. So, like, part of me is like, why? And then the other part of me is like, this is probably the best thing of the kind of weird series of crap they can do. Because we've had, like, Munchkin crossovers before. They did, like, what, Munchkin Gloom, Munchkin Panic. Those were like, why the flying rat's patoot are you doing those? Back in the day, they did a Munchkin RPG, which was based on 3.0, 3.5. That was kind of weird, and I remember reading up the rules, and we talked about doing it, but it would be like a comedy RPG.
Yeah, it's definitely more for a one-shot thing.
This is probably more up to actually playing Munchkin as an RPG, because it's dungeon crawling, dungeon building, and you're attempting to collect the most treasure, achieve the highest character level. And
if you run away, you get shamed.
Yeah. So it's a CMon style games have did a lot of those like kind of like dungeon crawl, dungeon builder games. I've seen CMon done, and those pertain well to Munchkin. It's sort of like playing something like the Castle Ravenloft or Tomb of Annihilation board games where you build your own board and build your own adventure from the cards, and doing it with this kind of like little kind of wry comedy style, I think actually works very well. That's the weird thing about this. They're going to kickstart it because I guess CMon Games does kickstart a lot of things, so I'm not against them doing that, because they're developing it along with Steve Jackson Games, and they're planning to put it out in Kickstarter in 2019. So it's quite a ways away, but they're like, hey, here's what we want, here's the mock-up we have of the box, and this is what we're doing. And I feel like this is what we're doing is interesting for once. You know, the Munchkin card game is very fun for what it is, but like all the weird spin-offs and crap, this is at heart the essence of what it is, and putting it in this format I think is actually good. I think if they would be successful for this, I wouldn't mind if they would do a couple others, because there's a couple other of the like Munchkin types which I think would pertain well to the similar style game. Not all of them. There are definitely those that I would say wouldn't. Which now we would get into what the heck Steve Jackson Games is going to push.
Yeah. This makes me almost think of like the dungeon board game from D&D mixed with Munchkin flavor.
Yeah. Definitely a little bit of that too. Because I think that's what those dungeon crawl board games are always a little like, you know? I think
Which is fun.
Dungeon's like the original. The originator of a lot of these kind of things.
Yeah.
The entire
So,
like genre of like dungeon builders has kind of come from that.
it'll be. I'm actually looking a little bit forward to this. I think it'd be interesting to see what CMon does with it.
Yeah. They do some interesting things. They do a bunch of board games that are really cool, and some of which I think are really cool, but I would never play because they're probably way too expensive and involve a lot. But, you know, this is definitely one of the ones that I would say, like, I can point this out and say, like, yes. And, you know, if it's coming to Kickstarter 2019, I'd be interested to see if we might see something of it with CMon at PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, if they might preview it.
They might give some previews of it by then. That's hard to say. Because
Depends on when in 2019 that they'd be looking to Kickstarter.
Yeah, they're only saying that's doing the Kickstarter in 2019, so they might not be ready for it by then. Which I do like the fact that a lot of these games are aiming to be more ready when they put the Kickstarter. They're like, they put their basic mock-ups together, and they're like, look, we got our game together, this is what it is, we need publishing funding now.
Right.
And I think that's a better bet than a lot of, like, older Kickstarters, which were a lot like, this is our idea, we want to develop it.
And then it never come through.
Yes, which were some of the problems. While they're saying, like, 2019, they're going to take the time to develop their, like, base mock-up. And then they could be like, here's what we got. You know, that's why, like, I do like it when you see a Kickstarter where they're demoing the game. Because that means they've made a mock-up. They might evolve it with what happens with the Kickstarter, with what happens with things like Kickstarter stretch goals. But
right.
No.
I mean, they got a box.
They got a box, which the box might change too. It's probably like a mock-up. They might keep the box exactly the same, depending on it. That's the thing, is it might change a little bit. It might stay the same, but they got like just some of the you know, basic Munchkin art on the box.
Yeah, and they got some of the classic stuff, like the Mall Rat and Duck of Doom.
Yep.
What's the axe?
The Unnatural Axe.
Unnatural Axe, yep.
And the Unspeakable Horror or something. The eyes in the back, you know. And,
yeah.
So yeah, I actually kind of am looking forward to checking this out. It's 3 to 6 players, so I'm curious as to how actually cooperative the game is. If it's semi-cooperative, not cooperative at all.
Like I said, I think it's going to be more
cooperative. I think.
I think it's going to be more. Well, it might be, or it might be more like Dungeon is, where it's you're facing off against your opponents, not directly but indirectly by trying to get the most stuff.
Well, that's why I was thinking that maybe it's somewhere in between that and something like the Castle Ravenloft, which is a very cooperative game.
True.
And they might meet something more like Fortune and Glory, which you can play it that you're all cooperating, or you can play it with a semi-cooperative, where you're still working together. Well, you can play it competitive, cooperative, semi-cooperative. Competitive, you're all versed at each other. Cooperative, you're facing the board. Semi-cooperative, you're facing the board together, which the board can overwhelm you, but you're still all seeing who can be the best.
Yeah, I would see maybe more semi-cooperative probably then, because, you know, just like Munchkin, you know, you can try to help each other out.
Yeah. So it might be that, you know, like, you still have to work together to accomplish the goals. It's just that one person might end up better than everyone else.
It's just that in the end you might backstab the other guy.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they do those mechanics and what level they do with them. All right.
Agreed.
Let's move on to our regular segments then. I think we can kind of hit into that. So we have a couple of regular segments, and the first one of which is, of course, our Kickstarter Korner, where Joe and I kind of find a Kickstarter, let you know about it, and kind of let you know what we think about it, and kind of give us some support on it. Do you have one for us this week, Joe?
Yeah, I have one that's very new. It still has 26 days to go. It's only got ooh, excuse me, only got $622 out of its $21,495 goal.
That's
So
an amount.
it has quite a ways to go. It's actually a Swedish company.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I was like, what the heck is an SEK for a dollar amount? I had to look it up. It's the Swedish krona. It's called Kill the Potato.
Okay.
It's a very quick card game. Up to 1 to 4 players. Can take 1 to 10 minutes. And the artwork's interesting. And it's very potato pun. And the whole thing is you get, you can have only up to 4 cards in your hand, and the whole point is to send potatoes to kill your enemies.
Okay, so it's pretty exact what it is talking about.
Yeah, like there's boss monsters, which are like David Hasselback, or Alien Queen, which is a potato version of the Alien Queen, or Kung Fries. You have defense cards, which can kill a potato that's attacking you. And then there's FU card, or F-up cards, that can... The attacking player is attacking themselves. All players attack themselves, stuff like that. So, 3 different... It's very basic, 3 different base kinds of cards. It's a very quick game, but looks kind of cool, interesting, kind of funny artwork.
Cool.
So if you're looking for something, quick and easy to play, there's really no learning curve. And the base one to get it without with getting the rewards and the stretch goals is only 21 American.
Cool. All right. So cool. So the one I have definitely is up my alley. It is Oddity High. So Oddity High is an RPG, and it's anime inspired. I mean, you can't deny that. It's basically, you're supposed to be like it's a high school setting for an RPG. But it's supposed to be like your weird, every weird trope of characters from Japanese anime are showing up in there. So it's like aliens, espers, and ordinary high school students. So it's going in the direction of a lot of things like Persona games, some various animes, and a lot more it's taking influence from. Where there's aliens, psychics, ghosts, demons, eldritch gods, sentient cats, all in dealing with this high school. So you basically choose a personality archetype and what you are, so you might be a model student that's a member of a secret agency, space cadet that's a robot, or you could just be an ordinary human too. That's the thing is there's a lot of options for this thing too. And the balancing out school with all the weird threats is the important part of the entire thing. So it's basically it's a high school setting kind of game, which is kind of interesting. So they have kind of 9 kind of playbooks for archetypes, kind of those that they go through. A model student being one of them, and you kind of then take from 10 other life playbooks, where the vanilla would be just a Persian, and something you could be the mascot, which are more of a mascot character. You're not human, so there's definitely a lot of interest in it. And they're going about for 150 pages. They are funded, which is the thing. So it is a funded project. Got 27 days to go. For $8, you get the PDF. So, and the thing is, they're offering for $18, you get the PDF plus all other future content they'll put out. Granted, that's a big promise if they don't do a bunch of it, but it's more support. It's like $10 more and you get it all. And the thing is, also for like $15, you can get the hardcover and the PDF that they're going to put out. For $25, you get the hardcover, the PDF, and all their future content too that they might put out. So it's kind of interesting that they're planning more. They do have some stretch goals, which they're working towards. Some more playbooks, basically what they call like for other types of character things. So they're more establishing more groups of things. Like if they reach their 4,000 goal, they'll include a playbook for a delinquent and for a teacher. So you can play teacher also, and some other life playbooks. So they basically have real life and other life that you're doing. And eventually, they like if they can get up to 5,000, they'll put together some like 3 schools, which they're going to like put together, which have very different settings to them. So I kind of found it like a little interesting thing, and it's anime inspired, which I'm a big fan of, anime stuff. If you haven't already known from all my other content on my YouTube side and stuff and what I've talked about, so I thought that was a cool one. All right, let's move on to our second to last segment, which is Our Week in Tabletop, which we talk about, or Our Week in Gaming, where we talk about what the heck we did in our gaming lives this week. So, Joe, what do you want to talk about?
Well, last Sunday we played. God, my brain is dead.
Star Trek Catan.
Oh yeah, Star Trek Catan. Which
you won.
I won. Yes.
Well, I think the dice were with you for one thing because
the dice were with me, and the first few rounds of 6s coming up.
Yes.
And me starting with the one character that let me do a 2-to-1 trade twice.
Yeah, you had some very good starting things, which put you on a very good foot, and like I could say I wasn't horribly far behind you, but I wasn't close enough was the problem. I got a lot of victory points in card format, but like a lot of rolls did not come up for me that I needed. And then you have Fallen Angel, who had like nothing the entire game. He barely built anything because the dice just hated him, and he did not have bad numbers. No,
I just felt bad for him.
Yeah, that was the worst game of Catan I've seen for anyone, I think, ever. Just the dice hated him. It was impressively bad. So,
yeah, he had a really bad go at that one. Yeah. And then the only other thing I have, well, I know we haven't. Yeah, the only other thing I have is the D&D game.
Yep.
Which we need to be level 3.
Yeah. I'm looking into it to figure it out.
I know.
If it would be appropriate or not, actually. I know, as I said, you'll at least have to finish up this dungeon before it would happen, so it won't be this session.
Yeah, I know. But we got our butts kicked so much!
They just rolled well. I'm sorry. The skeletons murdered the crap out of you because they hit you a bunch, and I'm sorry.
They hit me twice.
They hit you twice, and they rolled max damage on each hit on you.
Yeah. I know.
Those skeletons actually did damage to you, which was kind of impressive because they're skeletons. And then the Helmed Horror, you guys got waylaid by it pretty badly, and you guys weren't rolling great. Like
also, its AC was 20.
Its AC was 20, which would have made it difficult. But like, the rolls were just, ugh. Yeah, so
I had to roll a 15 or higher.
So you had a 1 in 4 chance of hitting it normally. And I mean, like,
failed every time.
You came up with an interesting plan, which I would have loved to actually see, because it was unlikely but still possible.
I just figured if I could get it prone,
that would have helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, maybe. Yeah. And the dice hated me.
The dice hated a lot of you that entire adventure,
yeah.
And I think
that was the other problem too, was we kept rolling horrible initiatives.
I rolled like okay to really good initiatives, and I'm like, oh, they got the drop on you some more.
Yeah, and that was the problem. Is like, crap. And also we should have known better than to step in a room full of skeletons without like doing something.
Yeah.
Like maybe throwing a rock in there, or
yeah. I mean,
as cautious as we are with everything else, room full of skeletons. Let's walk in.
I mean, I was like, well, I guess, we'll go for the surprise then, because no one's checking anything. Yeah, if you guys had checked it out a little bit more, they just would have gotten up and attacked you, and it would have been just an initiative normally.
Yeah.
But, like...
Which would have been a lot better.
Yeah. But, like...
I would have died right away.
yes. Because they got the initiative then. And that's why you died right away, because they got the hit in, and then they got the hit in again, and with maximum damage on 2 hits was enough to drop you.
Yep. It was enough to drop me, and if you could go to -1, I would have been at -1.
So the thing is, if they hadn't rolled max damage both times on both attacks, you might have still been standing.
Yes.
You would have been bad off, but you still would have been standing, and it was the rolls again were against you that entire thing. I think the other
it's like we survived a swamp full of dangers and undead.
And then we get murdered by this crab.
Skeletons and stuff. Yeah, it's like,
I believe the only other thing I did was Bastion Frontier, which we're approaching the end of it, and we are at the ending, which is probably not the worst ending, but might be. We're basically got ourselves trapped in with a Alhun, which, if you're not sure about that, is like a semi-lich illithid. It basically, the weird storyline is that this horrible monstrosity was summoned here by this thing in order to steal this power from this, like, trapped god and evil being, and we've had to go into the prison with the god and evil being because it got in there to steal the power, and it's trying to get back out, but the problem is the thing that it used to get in here in the first place is preventing it from getting back out. Basically, it's nullifying some of its abilities. So now we have to go in and kill it, and that seems like a great plan. Because it's undead mind flare. And I'm like, this seems terrible. Let's do it. And also, though, we totally left someone who's under the control of it outside to perhaps turn against us. So, that's fun. Alright, final segment for the day. Ask the Table. That's where you guys out there ask us a question. Whether or not you're asking it directly in chat now, in the chat of, in the comments of when this video goes up on YouTube, or on our Twitters, directly messaging us, or on my Discord. That's a great place to reach us too. Under the Discussing Tabletop section of our Discord. Ask us an early question and we'll answer it to the best of our ability. It doesn't have to just be tabletop related. So, also there's discussingtabletop@yahoo.com, which you can contact us off to also do it. So a lot of places that you can reach us to, well, talk with us about things.
Yes.
Yep.
Indeed.
Yep. I think that's all for now. So, I guess, thank you everyone for joining us for today. Hopefully next week Worm will actually be able to join us? Question mark? We'll find out. We'll find out. And we'll see if, we get him. Otherwise, you can, as I said, reach us at the various places. I'll be back theoretically tomorrow morning. I'll try to do Stellaris tomorrow morning if I can, to make up for the fact I didn't do it today. And I guess, Joe, you'll be joining with me for Sundays at the Tabletop, which should be tomorrow evening, if everything goes according to plan. And you'll be back with me for Madison Lamb, then?
Yes, of course.
And I will be back usually in the mornings. You can check out my YouTube stuff. Expect a lot of things. And there probably won't be soon, but I have kind of worked out the new games I'll be doing. So expect announcements for them as soon as I can find some players. So there will be some more role-playing games coming out in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. As long as I find players. So, but anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, and we'll hopefully have a worm. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.